Welcome to ITI's podcast. We call it Download on Tech. ITI is the global trade association of the technology industry, representing the world's technology innovators. When you listen to episodes of Download on Tech, you'll hear from leaders at the most innovative technology companies, from policymakers, and from influencers from around the world. Our guests share their perspective on the intersection of innovation and public policy. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Michael Alessia, Chief Human Resources Officer at Trellix. Trellix is a leading cybersecurity company and an ITI member. At Trellix, Michael works to ensure the organization remains people-focused and recruits the best talent. He's a seasoned leader with a proven track record of effectively managing diverse teams, organizational restructurings, and crisis management. He's also the NICE, that's NICE, Community Coordinating Council Industry Co-Chair. That's the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, which I know we'll talk more about, where he works to advocate for solutions to address talent shortages in cybersecurity. And he serves on the board of directors of Emerald, a trade and conference company. Michael, such a great pleasure to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Jason, thank you so much for having me. I'm a big fan.
No, you're very kind to say that. You and my mother will receive autographed copies of this podcast in the mail afterward. So thanks for saying that. Well, I'm a big fan of the work that you're doing at Trellix, and a big fan of Trellix, of course, as well. So looking forward to talking about your work. We're actually having this conversation in February. Of course, it's Black History Month. So today's episode will focus on diversity in the tech sector, area where we have some good stories to tell, but also some work to do. And specifically in the cybersecurity field, where we know there are hundreds of thousands of unfilled jobs. And we like to talk about the contributions of Black Americans to tech, and we want to focus on efforts that the cybersecurity industry and the tech industry more broadly are making to become more diverse. So, Michael, I'd ask you to start off by telling us about how Trellix and the work you do there prioritizes diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
Sure, Jason. I think, look, that's a fairly direct question to Trellix, and it's quite easy actually to put programs in place. But I want to take a step back because the way we think about it is that the lack of DE&I prioritization is a threat to our business. It not only is a threat to our business, but the global economy, and specifically in the U.S. So when you define it in that way, it becomes an existential prerogative, right? If we don't do this, we will have a much bigger issue. And if I think about Trellix specifically, because I do want to answer your question, but it's important to have that mindset. And I think other organizations need to think about it in that way. And then it almost automatically gets prioritized, right? So having this gap requires us to think about D&I in a variety of ways. First, you have to really think about it as out of the box. You have to have some out of the box thinking. Because at Trellix, as I said before, it's the difference between having a workforce to meet challenges that are coming at us or not. And we are a for-profit company, and not having the workforce is problematic, right? And we look at it through a number of pillars. We look at it through education. We look at it through hiring and recruitment practices, as well as strategic partnerships to bring more talent, not only to Trellix, but to the industry. And that commitment to those three pillars for us has been illustrated through some partnership with local universities, with non-governmental organizations, both public and private organizations. For example, ASE, which stands for Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, which is really focused on bringing diverse folks to a variety of industries. They have a program called Mujeres in Tech, right, which really focuses on women of Hispanic backgrounds, bringing them into technology at the entry level. We also have programs like Gotara, which means North Star in Hindi, is really a program where we provide just-in-time learning, micro learning to women in STEM plus fields. We also have done some work with the HBCU career program of the National Cybersecurity Alliance, which really for us has taken a life of its own. And we really expanded it in many ways by not only participating in their recruitment fairs, but actually having speakers talk about cybersecurity, right? Because it's all about getting people energized around it. And then it's the work that we do around capture the flag tournaments and hackathons, where we invite folks to come in, and broad cross sections of folks. We support that hiring and promote that diverse workforce because it's not only the right thing to do, but because it helps us as an organization. And again, as I said, that prioritization, when you can align it, really solves the issues that we're trying to get at.
That's a great overview of a lot of different initiatives that you have underway at Trellix. And I appreciate you're starting at the top with the philosophical approach and the recognition that even for-profit companies need to operate in the way that you're describing in order to be successful. So I wanted to ask you for perhaps some practice tips and advice for companies elsewhere in the tech sector that are trying to step up their activities related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. What are some actionable steps that you would recommend companies that are trying to lean in on DEI issues? And particularly, as we have this conversation during Black History Month, what are some actionable steps to address the underrepresentation of Black professionals in tech?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, thank you for bringing that topic up, because it is so critical. We pioneered this initiative called Soulful Work. It was one of the reasons that I decided to join Trellix, to be able to spearhead this and as an architect of it with our CEO, which is really an industry education and recruiting resource and initiative designed for underrepresented folks to join cybersecurity organizations. And when I say cybersecurity organizations, I really mean it. I'm looking forward to other firms using that Soulful Work moniker, that tagline, because it really is soulful work. And I think when you think about the African American community, like many underrepresented groups, the history in technology has not been great. So they may not know what's involved in cybersecurity. And if you're thinking about African American youth, they want purpose, just like we all do, right? They want to belong to something. And what better thing to do than something that's soulful, right? That actually is doing good, right? We're the last line of defense between bad actors and your grandmother's bank account, right? And so it was something that I think more companies can do. So, you asked me a specific question, market it. Let's go out there. Let's talk about cybersecurity and what it means. K through 12 is critical. Being able to take time out of our days and go into local schools to talk about cybersecurity. It starts there. I think we need to attack this both on the supply and the demand sides of the cyber talent gap. Our industry struggles to find and retain qualified professionals, right? Particularly women, people of color, people from the LGBTQ plus community. we recently commissioned a survey of cybersecurity professionals across about 1,000 respondents. 78% identified as male, 64% identified as white, and 89% identified as straight. And 92% of them agreed cybersecurity is purposeful work that motivates them internally. But they also say, and in fact, most of them say, that we don't do enough to encourage hiring from a range of those demographics. And a lot of what they learned was on the job training. So, when you think about those actionable steps, market it, take a look at your job descriptions. One of the things that we did is we reviewed all our job descriptions. And when I first got here, I started looking at it. I said, well, why does that role need 10 years of experience? They're in customer support. Doesn't make sense. And if you think about what our industry looked like 10 years ago, you think it wasn't diverse. It's not as diverse now. It definitely wasn't diverse then. And so you're really recycling the same people. And you see it on LinkedIn. People get promoted. They go from one cybersecurity firm to another firm, and it's the same sort of set of people. So you have to open that aperture. And one of the ways you do it is you make it less onerous to actually apply, right? On-the-job training is critical, right? So when you look at those job descriptions, can I do 5 years? Does it have to be a bachelor's degree? Can it be an associate's degree? And then we'll bring you there. Our studies have shown that most people learn it on the job. And if you think about how you bring someone into an environment where they're going to learn and be developed, you can bring someone in as a customer support rep. They learn our software, they learn the tools, they learn the client ecosystem. And then you push them forward, you bring them forward, and you put them in either a sales engineering role, right? They know a lot about how the customer operates. And so right there, they're getting a little bit more technical. And then from there, we've seen a path where it actually puts them in a more technical role, like a threat intelligence role, or programming, or in fact into sales. That's okay too, right? And so you bring them in and you train them up. And again, bring clarity to the way we talk about cyber. It isn't more difficult than other areas of tech. It just isn't. And so we can progress those tech learners into cyber experts.
And another way you're getting the word out is on college campuses across the country, particularly in underrepresented communities that may not know about cybersecurity as a career opportunity or a career path. You alluded earlier to the work you're doing at HBCU campuses across the country. And in fact, ITI has had a partnership since 2022 with Morehouse College in Atlanta that Trellix has helped support. I was really pleased to hear in particular about the HBCU career program that you developed working together with the National Cybersecurity Alliance. So I wanted to ask you a little bit more about that program and the impact you think it's having on improving the diversity in cybersecurity.
Sure. Look, we're part of the organization, the HBCU career program, and that's a partnership, as you said, with the National Cybersecurity Alliance. We launched this because we saw that there was an opportunity, not just at the top tier of HBCUs, right? Because there I'm also competing against much larger organizations with deeper pockets. But there's been a lot of work in some of these organizations, some of these universities, to build up their cyber capabilities. So we're talking about Prairie View A&M, Southern University, St. Philip's College, TSU, and we're doing it with organizations like CISA and Dell. The career program is about equipping students with the necessary skills to navigate the search process for positions in cybersecurity. So it's not just, hey, come work for Trellix. It's, hey, think about cybersecurity as a career. And by the way, they're great paying jobs. And by the way, there's a lot of jobs available. And what does that mean? That means that not only do we go to the career fairs, like we said, it also means going to the universities and talking about what it's like to be a CISO. What's the day in the life of a CISO? It's also about looking at the curriculum and helping some schools with what the right job ready curriculum could be. And we do that, quite a lot throughout the year with a bunch of universities. And I'll give you just an example that's not necessarily part of the HBCUs, but St. John's in New York has a cybersecurity program, which we partnered in helping develop curriculum for that. And it's been really a source of pride for the school, but it's also been a source of candidates for not only us, but a variety of other companies. And because it's in an urban area, you actually get a much more diverse population. So it's not just the HBCUs, which is great. It's also schools in diverse communities.
The federal government says there are about 700,000 unfilled cybersecurity roles just in the U.S. And it's obvious that workplace shortage has some real life implications for the security of our nation's critical infrastructure, for example, and our ability to address emerging threats and vulnerabilities in that infrastructure. Trellix is very active with ITI and on its own through your terrific government affairs lead, Tom Gann, here in Washington. How do you help Congress, the Biden administration, draw the link between the critical cybersecurity environment that we face and these workforce issues and the need to fill those cybersecurity roles?
Look, as I said before, I mean, the shortage is amazing, right? So you've got, as you said, over 700,000 jobs going unfilled in the U.S., and you probably have another 3 million or so outside the U.S. So in total, you've got almost 4 million open roles, and it requires investments in those fields, not just in the field itself, but also to recruit and develop. You've got countries like China, Russia, North Korea that invest heavily in the development of cyber talent, typically by investing in large teams of skilled cybersecurity professionals working for their governments, right? As opposed to us, where it's a little bit more decentralized. And given all the things that are going on, I believe the government and the private sector need to work together on a variety of fronts to better recruit, invest in, develop new pools of talent to grow that cyber workforce. I think more government funding for scholarships to enable students. I don't think of this as, give money to the for-profit organizations. I have, as I said, an imperative to go out and do the things I need to do because it's better for my business, right? However, there are organizations, like I said, like ASE and others in HBCUs that could use that government funding to be able to grow the pie of candidates. If I think about two-year colleges, a critical place where we could actually have a certification program that's federally approved that talks about cybersecurity, looking at diversifying staff that does the training, thinking about K through 12 and primary school educational programs that we teach security at an early age. By the way, that has a twofold, right? It has the ability to help continue to protect us, right? Because the savvier, citizenry that we have, the better it is from a security posture perspective, period. But also because it nurtures the interest and develops skills that drive people to the industry as a whole.
It is an interesting balance there. In the U.S., in particular, government cybersecurity jobs are also unfilled as the private sector jobs are unfilled. I hesitate to say that the government and the private sector are competing for talent, but there really is a need to get that capability, those skill sets into government as well. Given the demand for cybersecurity professionals in the public and private sector, and as we've been talking about, the shortage of talent, as you work to get the word out about cybersecurity opportunities, what do you think the role of the public and private sector is, either similar or different, in narrowing this talent gap?
Well, I think, look, you're right. There's a lot of symmetry here, right? We can work together to drive some of these changes. And look, I've heard some great ideas from folks. I certainly won't take credit for it, like a cyber core, where the government will guarantee tuition for 2-year or 3-year or 4-year programs if folks work in the U.S. government, the federal government, in cyber for a period of time. As an organization that is looking to recruit the best of the best, I think that is a great idea. I recently went to a school who built this great cyber program, and they had, they built these rooms where you'd have one set trying to infiltrate a water system and another trying to figure it out and stop it. And it was just such an amazing thing to see these minds work. But when I asked a simple question, which was, what tools are you using? The answer I got back was something that they had created to mimic this. And in my mind, I was thinking, wouldn't it have been better to actually use live tools that actually are also teaching how some of these tools work and real life experiences? And so I think there is a lot more that we can do by offering those kind of technologies to these schools to do it. So if you think about something like that core, like the cyber core, there I would have organization and people that actually have been using real life tools that I then can come into the private industry, both for us as a cybersecurity company, but for our clients who have extensive cyber organizations themselves, like a bank. And I think that would be really, really helpful. Look, if we continue to do this, we'll succeed at this. I am optimistic that partnership can work. And it is a driving force behind Trellix. It's a very important part of what it means to work with us.
Your optimism is contagious. I'm feeling it. And I wanted to ask you to impart some optimistic wisdom on our listeners. My last question, the last topic we have time to address, is to ask you to kind of look into your cybersecurity crystal ball. I'm curious what kind of key trends or challenges you may be seeing in the future, and how Trellix is positioning itself to address them, and leave us with your parting thoughts on the future for cybersecurity.
Great. Well, look, you're hearing a lot about AI. And you're seeing it in every facet. We've been leaders in AI and cybersecurity for a really long time. We have it embedded in a lot of our products. Part of that is also an imperative, because AI maybe perhaps can do some of the work that would normally be done by an individual. The problem is there's no amount of AI that's going to get there, right? So there'll be tools that will make it easier to actually work in cyber, in threat detection, in banks or other organizations that have cybersecurity organizations within them. And I will tell you that that's something that's not gonna change. So we've got to think about, how do we deploy those so perhaps the barrier to entry in cybersecurity becomes lower. So instead of using AI to replace jobs, use AI to create tools that make it easier for people to get into AI. So if I was looking into my crystal ball, I would say that there are a lot of organizations. Trellix in particular is doing a lot of work in making sure that we have those type of tools that allow organizations to have fewer people, but also folks that haven't been in cybersecurity for 20 years do the work. So I would say there are tools. I think there is a new class of of chief information security officers, and they see the future. They see it, and they're energized by teams that bring new talent and that have this broader pipeline mentality. So I do believe that you'll see more hiring happen outside of the cyber industry, but in other areas of tech that'll come into cyber.
What a great reminder that AI is not here to take our jobs, but it's here to create new opportunities and new sources of jobs for everybody in the tech sector. I like that perspective a lot, and I think it's an important one to share with our listeners today. Michael, this has been a true pleasure to have you on the show today. I really appreciate your sharing your perspective, sharing Trellix's perspective. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Jason, thank you so much. I continue to be a fan.
Well, thank you. Our guest today has been Michael Alessia, who is Chief Human Resource Officer at Trellix. And our thanks to Michael, and our thanks to you for listening and watching today's ITI Download on Tech podcast. You can find future episodes of Download on Tech on our website, itic.org, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. I'm Jason Oxman, ITI's President and CEO, and I can't wait to connect with you next time.